real quick, who was on the webinar? All right, I apologize, you're gonna see the same thing real quick. I thought the majority of the people had been on it, and when I found out they weren't, we're gonna go ahead and put that up. You're gonna see basically my presentation. I was trying to get away from the death by PowerPoint, but you're gonna have to suffer a little bit through it. And then you're gonna see there's a handout. Operationally, especially when they asked who has a drone program, not a whole lot of you held your hands up. But as you progress in developing your programs, you're going to have to apply for waivers. All right, there's really no way around it because you know you're going to have Class D airspace, A, B, and C airspace in your states. But primarily, you know, looking at Class D airspace, you're going to have to know how to apply for it, and you got to know, all right, am I applying for a certificate of authorization, or am I applying for it under the FAA Rule 107? All right, and I had to do that, as Denise said, I had to apply that. And we were all kind of shocked that we did get the authorization because it's kind of unheard of. So as I was doing it, I thought, wow, this should be something I should really present as, you know, because this is more operational, how we fly, how we do things. So I'm going to present that here today also, is the steps I went through, those websites I had to go to, and which are the same ones that you can apply and look at to help you in the future. And I wrote those down on a piece of paper and my contact information. So that's why you'll see basically two things going on. If we don't get to it at the end of this presentation, we're going to do it during lunch. So you're going to see that information. But I apologize for the people that were on the webinar. You know, benefit of the masses, I guess we could say. So I am Dwayne Day. I'm the Homeland Security Planner, Delaware Department of Transportation. That's that little state down there, you know, next to, who are we next to anyway? Anyway, Washington, D.C. So we have 17 miles of the I-95 going through Delaware, so we'll take a big part in the Corridor Coalition. But you're going to find out we have probably the biggest and largest drone program of any DOT. The only one I can think of that comes close to us and mirrors us is Utah. Mass is getting there, but not quite as large as us. But everything that Mass was doing, we are doing also. All right, and all your DOTs are doing that, and that's where we're pressing. So, like I said, my job is the Homeland Security Planner. That's my primary function. I do the emergency management plans for DelDOT, how we respond to incidents. I'm the interface to DEMA, the Delaware Emergency Management Agency. So, you know, I have a lot of different hats. Just one of them is the UAS program manager. Oh. Real quick, how our UAV program started. We do the special events. So we're hanging out in our special events, and we did this thing called pumpkin chunking. Probably not very popular up here, but it's kind of a redneck thing where I am from. And they launch these pumpkins to see how far they can go, and they go out and measure it. It's one of those things, just an opportunity for everybody to come out and get drunk. So, you know, except for the DOT folks, you know, we're their help. But we were at pumpkin chunk in 2014, and I'm sitting in my truck, and it's in November, right? So in November, it's dark in the morning. They don't open until 8 o'clock, so I got all this queue, this line of cars coming through, and I'm sitting there, and this thing's hovering. And I'm like, what is this thing doing? It's all lit up, hovering. So I got out of the truck, went over and said, hey man, what are you doing? And he says, I'll check this out. And he had the Phantom 3 drone was flying there, and it had, his downlink was on his iPhone. And I thought, how cool is this? I could be using this, you know, multiple different reasons. So I basically went back to my boss and said, hey, we got to have one of these. And my boss is a pretty innovative lead. And he said, yeah, go ahead. And Federal Highway said, no, don't move. You're not going to use any more funds. You're not doing anything. And so what it did is allow me to basically go and do a lot of research. And during my research, these are some of the things I said, oh shit, no wonder they, no wonder they don't want me to just go out and purchase one of these things and start utilizing it. There were a lot of other aspects, that nefarious side of working with this. As you can read, I'm not going to read them to you, but I'll leave it up there. Because in my job as a Homeland Security Planner, I'm also sit on the state's Homeland Security Advisory Council, where we sit there and we brief the cabinet secretaries on different things, aspects, basically depending on your discipline. So one of the things I briefed was, hey, this new technology out here is drones. you know. Not only do we want to use them, but the bad guys can use them. And as you can see, some of the things they can use them for, obviously smuggling drugs and contraband into the prisons are a big deal. And like the bottom one, use a platform for firearms and other weapons. And if anybody's done any research on that, you can see people have put flamethrowers, shotguns, other weapons, and can even use them as a kamikaze. ISIS is using them. So there's a lot of things the bad guys can use them for. So basically, I briefed the Homeland Security Advisory Council, and they created a subdivision. In that subdivision, because nobody else was talking about it, and I could handle all the laughing, we created this subcommittee, and I looked at it, and we basically formed a real committee about after 3 meetings and said, this is something we really need to keep abreast of. And so that committee started, and it went on for about 2 years, where this committee, all we did was look at, you know, all things drones. I mean, all things, from economic development to the bad guys using them to the public agencies using them. And here's what our committee looked like. So not only Delaware Department of Transportation, I had the State Fire School in there, Department of Ag, U of D, Delaware State Police, Safety and Homeland Security, yada, yada, all the way. We had a lot of different variety of people in there, and that's why we wanted it. And we specifically had Delaware Department of Transportation as the committee chair. Anybody think about why a reason for that? Law enforcement, if you guys are the lead of that, what's everybody thinking? Big brother. Department of Transportation, there's just another agency using drones. And that's specifically why I was chosen. Not specifically why, but one of the main reasons I was chosen as the chairman. All right, we didn't want the aspect of big brother on top of a state or organization or agency like that. As I said, we were looking at everything drones. And it got to the point where we couldn't look at everything and give it 100%, I would say. So we tried to break that committee up into 3 other committees, where we looked at how the economic development, how can we bring all this emerging technology into the state of Delaware? Because we're a tiny little state. We got to go out and find business. So we basically created, for our DOT Division of Aviation, we created this economic development, and they ran with it on that side. The Training and Certification Steering Committee came out of the HSAC. Those agencies that wanted to actually develop UAV programs, we formed this committee that we would just look at the training and certification. And that was across the entire state. All right, it just wasn't DelDOT, it was all those agencies. We are trained together, and we're trained together, we fly the same aircraft. And then we still kept the Homeland Security Advisory Council, which is another council I would brief. And basically on the nefarious use, how ISIS was using them and all the other bad guys. So here we are with the committee. Now how do we start? What do we do? So we reached out to UAS Academy. They're out of Virginia. And Dr. Jim Blanchard came up and he basically gave us some training. All right, the basics of flying, the basics of passing, because the 107 was just coming out. How to pass our 107 test, how to do maneuvers, how to do maintenance programs. And you'll see another slide, we developed our program under what we call the MOST system, maintenance, operation, safety, and training. So our committee was focused, like I said, that's the most part up there. And we were looking at this, we looked at everything out there, because at the time there was no other programs. You know, we looked at, you know, what are any standards that are out there, what are the feds developing, what is NFPA developing, anybody. And we were trying to bring it back and incorporate it into a program. So this is basically where we came up, the state agency coordination, we have mission collaboration, the standards development, best practice, and aircraft troubleshooting. We would have training where we have all our flights, we would go out and fly, then after each flight we'd come inside the fire school and we'd sit there and go, what went wrong, all right? What went well, what went wrong? What was our maintenance? Anybody have any maintenance issues while you were flying? And we write them on the board. Any operational issues? Oh, hey, I forgot to do this. Oh, my SIM card didn't work, whatever. And then, you know, any safety issues. Hey, you were flying in my airspace, you shouldn't have been, type stuff. And then the training. How do we develop and further our training? I get shocked. You see me jerk here? I get shocked every time I touch it. So. Now, all the public agencies in Delaware that want to be part of it are volunteer. I would say really 100% of all the public agencies in Delaware are part of our program. All right. Why reinvent the wheel? All right. If you're going to develop a program and you don't want to go out and just start doing it all over again and you're going to piggyback on what the committee has done. All right. So everybody's trained to the same level. And I say that's when we first started out. All right. We're all trained to a certain level. We all have the same qualifications. And we all fly DJI platform aircraft or the same aircraft. All right. And the specific reason for that, we're all interchangeable. All right. My pilots, I can take any one of my pilots and I can fly them with DEMA, or I can fly them with Wilmington PD or Dover, or vice versa. They can come fly with us. All right. So we're all interchangeable, and we do a lot of that. And I'll hopefully explain some of that. We all fly the DJI operating system. A specific reason for that. All right. DJI sells commercial off the shelf, probably what, 80% of commercial off the shelf products. All right. That means 80% of the people out there are using DJI and also developing programs and learning those programs. And you have that many other people doing research and helping you build your program. You can reach out to people. So we reach out a lot to, our law enforcement folks, our fire folks, even though we train together. If I have a problem or they have a problem, I'll get a call. Hey, I'm having trouble downloading this, or I'm having this. And we can usually find somebody that has already had that problem and fix the problem real quick. So basically our pilots are all trained the same. We went through 107 training. We all got our 107 certifications. And then we went through basically what we call a pilot qualification course. All right. Once we learned how to fly, we have a 3-day course, pilot qualification course, whereas the first day we bring the students in and we teach them basically how to set up their operating systems, make sure how to check your weather, how to read your NOTAMs and all that other stuff. And then for the next 2 days, we take them out and we make them fly. And we make sure that they can do 10 maneuvers, all right? We teach them 10 maneuvers, they fly at our fire school, and the 10 maneuvers, then they go back to their agency, and it's up to their agency to certify them. What we do in DOT is they do those 10 maneuvers, and then they turn around, they come back, obviously they're my people, they come back to me, and I give them about a month, maybe 2 months to go out and practice. And then I take them out and I give them a check ride. We have any ex-military folks? That aviation? Check ride. You get a check ride, you get Q1, 2, or 3. I'm a prior air crew. So, we same concept. We give them a check ride. Basically pass, fail, boom, 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 and that goes into your records. So my concept on everything that we developed, and this is what I recommend to all of you, is anything you're going to put out there, anything you're going to develop is, can you defend it in court? And that's the key. Can you defend it in court? And my training program, everything else, if I had to take one of my pilots and take them, and we had to go to court because they crashed into something or we're getting sued or something like that, will I be able to defend that I've done the best thing I can as far as getting them trained? And yes, I have. And I have their training records back there. I brought my training records, so if you want to take a look at them back there. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned Q1, 2, and 3. Are those different qualifying levels?
Yeah, it's a military thing, In the military...
So you don't do that? You don't do different...
No, I just say, you're done, or not even that. I just say, all right, we need to work on this. All right, I'm not signing you off that day. And then we'll go back and say, okay, you need to do this maneuver or practice this maneuver. And I'll get one of my other flyers to go out and fly with them. And I'll show you what the maneuvers are here in a minute. So with that concept where we all fly together, the first time we used it was shortly, probably 4 months after everybody got trained. All right, we had a prison incident, prison takeover, the Vaughn prison, and got called, said, hey, it's like 3 in the afternoon. we got this thing, can you bring drones over and do overwatch? So we got there, DelDOT has a mobile TMC. I dragged that over there, and we had Wilmington PD, Delaware State Police, DEMA, and 2 Dover pilots there. We flew all night long. We flew for 15 hours and flew 67 flights of overflight. And we were providing a downlink for the FBI SWAT teams, Philadelphia SWAT teams, and all of a sudden even our Delaware State Police SWAT teams. So basically 4 in the morning when everybody was ready, they asked us to put the drone up because we were putting a live feed into their command trailer. Put the drone up, they could see it, boom, and they went in and took care of business. Shortly after that, we had another hostage situation, which basically just law enforcement, and that's why we kind of identify, there are things that you do not want the Department of Transportation going in and playing, If somebody's pulling guns or something like that, we will not come out. That's why we have multiple law enforcement agencies that are trained together and fly together, same concept. So just another mission that they did. We did have another trooper. He got killed, and all the local law enforcement agencies, they all basically got together and flew for probably 13, 14 hours and provided the video downlink for your SWAT teams. Our program. These are some of the aircraft we have, and I brought 3 of them back here in the back, basically during lunch, whatever we want to do. Ask me any questions about them or whatever you want to do, touch them, spin the props, whatever we want to do. So I brought 3 of them. 2 of them are the latest things that DJI has put out. One is the Matrice 210. It does have, right now, it has a thermal XT2 camera, which can basically go back and forth while you're flying. You can switch it back and forth. One is the M2E Matrice 2 Enterprise. That one there is one of our latest ones also. And then the workhorse that we call is the Phantom 4 Pro. It's been out for a couple of years now, but we still probably fly it on everything we do. Love that thing. This one right up here, right there, that was the Inspire 1 Pro. DJI doesn't support it anymore with their downlinks, so or their upgrades. So we basically have 4 of those. We use those for training aircraft now. So our program, first thing I had to do, I'd develop an SOP. Try writing an SOP that's something that's never happened before, because everybody has their own opinions. So we had to write an SOP and what we thought would be, and luckily my upper management is very supportive of what we're doing. But we put oversight along with our operational directives, how we're going to do it, and the way our SOP is written is for each division in DelDOT that wants to be a participant in the drone program. They basically send an application to me that they've, their contact information, their supervisors have read the SOP, and that everybody is agreeing to the SOP. Because in that SOP, what it says is your division is going to purchase a drone, all right? We just don't give you a drone when you come on. Your division has to purchase that drone, which comes out of your own operating funds. So that's the big thing. Once they agree, everybody wants to be part of the UAV. They'll come to me and say, train your people. And I basically get them trained and operational. And then we'll go and decide, depending on what their mission is, what they're going to, or which aircraft that they were going to use to fly. Because if you look at those aircraft, and you'll see in here, it's a different tool in the toolbox. All right, we have small ones, big ones, some that have thermal, some have Zoom 30s, some of that. So it depends on what we're doing. All right, depending on which drone we take out. And we also want any of our hired contractors, Jacobs Engineering, whoever's, out there. To the public, we all look alike, right? We all got an orange vest on. We're out there in the middle of traffic. And so we want to make sure that when the public has a question, they call the TMC, and the TMC will have a record of who is actually flying that location. So anytime we fly, we call in, we tell them, what tail number we're flying, who's the pilot in command, who's our VO, and they keep that on record. We make it in our SOP the same requirement for our contractors. They have to do the same thing. Because last thing I wanted somebody to say, hey, you know, DelDOT was out here flying and they were peeking in my pool. You know, no, that was, Jacobs Engineering. Sorry, picking on Jacobs, but yeah, that was, all right, that's good. So we do that. One other thing is the FAA does not require you to have a VO under 107. Our SOP does. We have to have a VO out there flying with us, basically a visual observer, somebody sitting next to you watching. Just overall, it's a safety precaution. All right, so just something different that we've added in there. Kind of went over this already. The big thing I haven't gone over is what is currency? All right, so our pilots have to fly, they're required to fly 3 flights in a 90-day period. All right, and that 3 flights is basically, you know, not up and down, land, up and down, you know, that, it's basically you have to burn a whole battery. So you get on there, and that's on the aircraft you intend to fly. You know, I got 5 or 6 different models back there. Not everybody flies the same model. So if you're primary flying a Phantom 4, up and down, you do your 3 flights. And, you know, basically I track their currency. I have a pilots meeting about every month and a half, 2 months, and I'll print out their flying and say, all right, you know, you've only flown three flights this month or whatever. And I'll show you that program real quick.
Wayne, how many drones do you guys have down Delaware?
I'll get to it, but I got 16 right now. These are my pilots. All right. Right now, all my pilots have 107 certification. All right. I have a district engineer from maintenance and operation, a surveyor, project manager. He's from M&O, maintenance and operation. He's also a commercial pilot. All right. That's somebody you want to have on your program. All right, especially when you're developing it, because when commercial pilots, when they talk to the FAA, you know, they can talk that aviation back and forth. All right. His name's Nelson. Nelson, I always lean out to him whenever I want a waiver or we're going to fly in restricted airspace. I'll reach out to him and say, hey, you know, hook me up. And he makes the phone call, talking to the FSDO or somebody, and he gets our waivers. I got a safety officer. Eventually, all our safety officers are going to have a drone in their vehicle, because usually they're the first ones on scene if there's a major incident, whether it be a fatal or a rollover or something of that nature. So all our safety officers will eventually have one. Special events manager, he has one. I do have a female. She's an assistant director. She came from M&O, so she came over. There's me. I have a supervisor, and then I have a right-of-way agent. So you can see I have a mixture of different people in different divisions. So it depends on what they're doing and where they want to go with their programs. Training records, I have a copy in the back. If you flip it open, it has right in the front, has everybody's training records as far as their test scores, their results. I have everything in there. I have copies of it. You see on the first page, it will have their maneuvers, when they got signed off by me. You flip that page over, it has night flying. We're all night flying certified or capable. And what we had to do that, night flying quiz, night flying documents they had to read. And then on the back page, any type of training that they've gone to, any certification they have, it's in the back there also. Like I said, if I have to go to court, that's going with them. All right.
Some of us are sort of reinventing the wheel in terms of developing programs. Are there resources where we can get access to what you're...
I'll give you anything you want. Everything you want. That's the way we built in Delaware. Anything we can provide you, anything you can copy, cheat, steal, anything you want. Yep. That's kind of what the coalition's doing here. We've been doing this. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. I've hit my head against the wall so many times. But the people that are developing their programs after us shouldn't have to do that. you know, and that's kind of the way we approach it, and that's the way I think the coalition now eventually wants to approach it.
Is that out on the web already, or we email you?
No, I'll have to put something together, but this is the first time they've done this. I think they want to make sure I didn't flop. But yeah, anything I have, any programs we have, feel free. If you're developing something and it's like, hey, all right, let me email this guy, see what he's got to say. Go ahead, send it to me. You know, I get a lot of emails all day long from various sources. You know, the Georgia DOT guy's not here, Bob. We've been going back and forth for the last probably 6-7 months, and he's trying to get a certificate of authorization. He finally just got it. You know, I hooked him up with my COA guy, and worked it through, and he was able to get a certificate. This is what my guys have to be signed off on. All right, basically ground school, FAA remote pilot certification, however you get it. I don't care. I'm not going to spend the time on you anymore. We used to have to go in and we would provide a ground school, a full day of ground school, and then we'd turn around, we'd only have about 40% of the people go down and test. Out of the 40% that tested, all passed. But a lot of people, they come into these, oh, I want to fly a drone, how great this is going to be, it's going to be fun, I got a toy. And then when they find out everything they have to do to be a part of the program, they just say, oh, I'm not doing it. And so anytime I have new recruits coming in, that's why I say, come on over, come to TMC. I put up, you know, a presentation. This is what you got to learn. You got to learn your Class A airspace. You got to learn this, this, and this. And typically 1 or 2 will drop out. They just don't have the time, or they don't want to put the effort in. And that kind of weeds them out. And once they get their 107 certification from the FAA, then they come to me. And then I know they have a vested interest in it. All right. We wasted too much time over the last couple of years of just people, you know, hey, are you going to come? You're going to come to this training? You're going to do? Nah. And it's, to me, that's the best way to do it. And every state, every public agency in the state of Delaware does that way now. Actually, what we do is we reached out to DART drones. They have actually a pretty good online program for 107 prep testing. We worked out with them, and we buy for the state. We'll buy like 10 tickets at a time from them and say, okay, and hand those out where we prepay ahead of time. It's $225, I believe, and that allows those people to basically study on their own, go out and take their test, and when they get back, like I said, their different agencies take them from there. You got to pass your test. You got a pilot qualification course. We do try to teach a tactical operations course at least once a year, and we're going to get back into that. And what that is, you know, when you're flying 4 aircraft, 5 aircraft together, you've got to have a lot of coordination, all right, especially if you're doing some type of search and rescue, law enforcement issues, or whatever you need to do, all right? And there's some issues we found in there, frequency overriding and everything else. So we teach that. We teach them how to operate together. We teach them how to coordinate, and we basically do until FEMA comes out with like an air boss for drones. We have simulated air bosses in there and whatever training we can require. And that's all because we've developed it in-house. You know, we and all of you, you're on the leading edge of this technology and how to implement it. And we're all kind of just developing it together. But these, you can see that course is optional. Indoor flying course is optional. Yeah, we like to fly indoors, you know, especially when it's rainy outside. We'll put the prop guards on there and zip around. And it basically, it helps you, you know, just hone in your skills. All right. And, you know, I've had to take those skills and take them out into the trees. All right. And we'll be doing watershed projects. I've actually had to look at some skeletal remains for the forensic guys, but flying inside the trees, you know, so it builds confidence, it builds that skill level up. So I'm not going to go over all the maneuvers, but these are pretty generic maneuvers. All right, once you start flying and you go back to do these again, you're like, oh, yeah, all right, you know. But when you're first starting out, it's a confidence building, and that's why we put them in there. You got to build that confidence. All right, so we do that. We put that in there, and then at the bottom, like I said, I'll sign that off.
Wayne?
Yes.
Can you make a copy of that available at a PDF for us?
Sure.
That qualification?
I have it on here.
Just to send, because we'll put out, when we put out our documents and stuff, we can send that out as a sample.
Uh-huh. What we're doing now is, for those of you that don't know, the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association 2400, has just put this out in January. It's the standards for small and aircraft systems. Basically, they're trying to do across the nation, all the firefighters that are going to develop UAS programs, they're all trained to the same level. Hey, you've heard that again. Trained to the same level, have the same qualifications. All right. So I basically bought that book, and it needs a little work, but we're modifying things. And so one of the things we're doing is we're taking the obstacle stuff that they did and we're applying it to our training. We're calling it basically advanced training. So you can see that this is from their websites and their. What I've done already, they have we call it a cluster. It's a cluster of things, and the 5-gallon buckets are going at different angles. So you know we're training our people to fly around that and to identify inside those buckets. You'll see if you see they got something up in here. But what I've done is I've taken stickers. I had my sign department make stickers, and I let them guys go at it. I said, I don't care what you give me. I got mother tattoos. I got dinosaurs eating other dinosaurs, whatever they want in there. So that goes up in there. And then I've taken a plastic core, you know, you see on signs and stuff like that, especially during election time. You know, people. Well, if you steal them off and you make a like a 10-inch circle in there, you can put a sticker on either side. All right. So I don't have to basically change out my unit. I just go out and change out the little plastic piece in there. I can flip it over. Basically, so I got 3 different items or pictures inside that each bucket. And so when I test people, they have to run a obstacle course. And I don't think this presentation has the obstacle course. But the obstacle course is going to be where you'll fly your drone under, over, under, and you come into a barricade. From your barricade, you got to slide to the left. You go forward, you got to slide to the right. And then you'll hit your cluster. You got to identify the clusters. You'll go on, fly at a 45-degree angle. You'll hit another cluster like this, upside down. You got to identify up. Then you'll 45 back to a different cluster. And in that cluster, we have high fans. So now you got to fly with high winds and try to identify that cluster. And then after it leads there, then it does a slalom course back, and it's all timed. All right, and it gives the guys a little competition, you know. So we're developing that right now. Like I said, we've only got the bottom cluster done now and the barricade. So some of the training my people have gone through, tactical operations from UAS Academy. We've done indoor flying from UAS Academy, the search, rescue, flare, night ops from Dart drones. All my guys are night flying qualified. I have 8 of my pilots are FLIR Thermal 1 certified. All right, it's a brand new course that FLIR just put out in January. We were the test dummies at it in Delaware, but all my people are level 1 thermography certified. We are bringing in a hazmat course June 5th and 6th. We're bringing a hazmat course from Magda International, and we're bringing in a night flying course. Even though all my guys are certified, there are other people in the state that aren't certified also. We're bringing from SMG, Sundance Media Group out of Las Vegas, they're bringing in, the end of May, bringing in a night course. Every year I try to send people to the latest and greatest conference out there. What is the latest technology? All right. Is it a drunk fest? Not if you ask them, but yeah, we go out there. We have a good time. It's bonding too. All the pilots work together. All right. These are some of the different ones we've gone to. We've gone to Interdrome for the last 2 years. This year we're going to AVUSI at the end of the month. And we just look, see what people are doing. What is the industry doing? You know, what's the latest, greatest? Can we apply what we've learned there into our program? That's a slide. We all had to do thermal projects after the very end in that course, so this is one of the, you had to provide a thermal, and then you had to fly a regular right next to it. So, the fire school in Delaware is our official flying for the state. The director is very pro drones, so this is our location. You know, we go out and do all our training. It really doesn't matter if we crash or hit something, according to the buildings, but that is located just outside Dover. This is the breakdown of my inventory. All right, I actually have 16 now, but DJI Inspire 1 Pros, those are the ones that are going obsolete. The Phantom 4 Pro is that white one back there, the little white one. The Mavic Air, I didn't bring it because I brought the Enterprise, but we have different versions of the Mavic. And we have the DJI M210. Yes, sir.
Do you have a list of like other support equipment that you use when you go out on a mission? Like you got your drones, but like, I don't know, landing takeoff pads or umbrellas or tables?
Let me show you the picture of the bus, and I can kind of hopefully capture everything. Those are those aircraft back there. But don't let me forget that. All our aircraft are N numbered, just like a regular aircraft. And if you look online, you know, it does say that you can, you know, just go on to, what do they call it, a FlySafe or something like that, and get your 13-digit number. But it also says there's something there's a public agency, you know, you should be getting your N numbers. So all our aircraft are N numbered, all right? They all, you know, you take your affidavit, your application, and your receipt, you send it off to Oklahoma City. They come back, they give you an N number, and you put the N number on your drone, and you're good to go. Those are what those documents are. Takes about 6 weeks to get your stuff back, but once you fill in that application, you send it off, you're still good to fly. Yes?
Do we need to get an N number as opposed to just registering on a drone normally?
All mine are. My interpretation of what I read on there is it says, because it says public agencies, it'll say who needs, and then underneath it says public agencies. Chris, what's your take on that?
I've heard either way.
Yeah, as I say, it's kind of,
And I heard under if you have a COA,
you have to have an N
under
number.
107, you need to have an N number. I think it's something that they originally planned out when they first started doing this, and they just kind of all going towards this FAA registration numbers now, but I don't have an exact answer.
Yeah, it's a gray area.
Kind of seems like the FAA is just making things up as they go along.
No, and this is actually held over before the 107 came out. If you had a drone, you had to have an N number. All right. When the 107 came out and they said, hey, you know, you're flying as a hobbyist, you had to go register basically yourself. All right. You didn't register your aircraft. You registered yourself, and you got this like 13-digit number. All right. In that 13-digit number, you put that same number on every aircraft you owned. All right. Which is the opposite when you are a public agency. Public agency, each one of those aircraft individually have to be registered. How might insurance-wise in the state, we're the self-indemnification laws in Delaware, just like if we were driving a state vehicle or any other state piece of equipment, we are covered that way. We've had to go to the insurance coverage folks. We sat down, we gave them, once again, my training records. I had to show everybody's license. I had to show how we trained them, you know, what qualifications they had, and then they took that and they basically came back and said, nope, you're good to go. Versus your county folks, all right? Your county folks aren't covered by the state. All our county law enforcement agencies, any other, pretty much county law enforcement, they had to go out and get their own $1 million policies. And so I think most everybody's here state, federal. All right, here's my bus. All right, what's it look like? Yeah, a paratransit bus, right? So, Transit Corporation falls under DelDOT in Delaware. So, when these things were going to auction, they go to auction about every 10 years. We asked them to pull off the side the best one that they could find. We took it, and I gutted all the seats out of it here. Reversed that one. I had maintenance guys build a table so we could operate out of. This is a toolbox I got at Lowe's. I put a wooden board. That's our charging station, our maintenance station. And then this part right back here is our actually command operating center. It has 3 monitors here and basically, drawers of paperwork. If you come over here, we had this on the back built in. It's a ramp, so we can walk right out the back and we can stand there, and it has stairs on the other side. But that's where our generator, our fuel tank, and what we're putting on now is we're putting on a 30-foot telescoping mast antenna, because off that we're putting off 4.9. We're outfitting the state with 4.9, which basically gives the same as fiber through, but through the towers. So we'll have that. Obviously, we got the lights and everything else on it. This is the back side. This is air-to-ground radio monitor. We got a full PC. We got limousine seats. We turned around like that. The back, we got a full panel, 110 power going into that. I also have an inverter below that. Underneath the seats, I have the hoodman pads we can take. We can throw them out there, boom, and I have cones. So I can fully mark out, delineate my landing zone, which is a requirement for night flying off our waiver. In this section right here, it's hard to see, apologize, but in there we have junipers, secure junipers and CDMAs, which allows us to basically ping the towers, and so we can get onto the state server anywhere in the nation. So I could take this thing down to Florida, Georgia, up here, and I can see my drones with no latency about anywhere in the nation. So the only downfall I have on this is if the towers are saturated, if we go to a big special event, whether it be NASCAR, music festival, Firefly, something of that nature, where Verizon hasn't brought in what they call a cow, the towers get overrun. If they get overrun, we get overrun. So you'll see back there on that table, we just purchased, they're called Connex systems, and we can discuss those. But you'll see that antenna looking, if you want to hold that up. All right, that's a receiver. All right, you take that receiver and you take HDMI cable and you put it into a monitor. And I got a TV right here, all right, which has an HDMI cable and a splitter, and that splitter goes out the basic window right now. It's a 100-foot cable that I can plug into any command center in the state. So we plug in, we pull up to, either be law enforcement or be our county emergency managers, and we plug into that. But with this, that is a direct secure link from the remote controller straight into that receiver, and that receiver will be on the bus. And we'll have 3 of them sitting on our bus. And so that way we can have the downlink. Now, we don't have the capability, if we use that, to go into the Transportation Management Center, which we do have that capability. Whenever all our drones are flying, we have a direct feed into the TMC. All right, so they can see exactly the same thing we see. And we kind of treat that video and everything else, I know the conversation was going on, just as if you would treat any other video that's being brought in from a fixed camera on the road or a portable camera out there. I delete my pictures if I don't like them. If they're blurry and everything else, I delete them. I keep the majority of them. I keep them on a share drive that everybody can see, unless they're of a FATO or something that I don't want to see. Yes, they're all FOIA eligible. And yes, if you do that, because we fly a lot for law enforcement, you'll probably get subpoenaed. And I've been subpoenaed twice, all right, just from the pictures. And one of my other guys is, the state versus such and such, he's being subpoenaed also. So it's just the name of it's part of the game, Trying to think. Does that answer your question as far as the extra stuff we have on there?
Do you have a copy machine on board?
Nah. Copy machine. Yeah. So. How am I doing on time? I'm sure way over.
You're way over.
Okay. This is a 20-minute presentation. Certificate of authorizations. All right, and that's what I'm gonna go over that during lunch, how we did how I got the COA here. But we do have a COA for the state of Delaware. We have 2 Class D airspaces in there. One is a commercial airfield and one is Dover Air Force Base, military. We can fly under COA in both of those. All right. We also have 107 waiver that we can fly in both of those. All right. 107 is a lot easier. With the COA, I have to give them 72-hour notice. I have to talk to the tower. With a 107, I can probably either go and just say, hey, I'm flying at a 107, give them a call, that morning and go off and fly. They like 24 hours. But we just got the Lance program in our commercial airport. Anybody familiar with Lance? All right, and I'm going to show you Lance I'm going to show you all these things that I looked at when I got the waiver here. Certificate of authorization, Class D, we have a night waiver. We can fly at night by the FAA, and I can fly anywhere in the state. Now, Delaware's a little bit different than most of the other states, all right? We own and maintain 94% of the roads in the state, all right? So most of you, you're split up between your county public works agencies and everything else. No, we maintain control, except for some of the major cities, City, Wilmington, and parts of Dover. How I maintain all this, I'm going to go into that later, but it's basically drone logbook. And I'll tell you why I prefer drone logbook versus some of the others. I'm not going to worry about funding. Primarily, this is how DelDOT uses them. My department, because of Homeland Security and traffic, we primarily situational awareness. We put them up, we look at traffic, we look at special events, how that information's coming in. All right. I'm also the debris manager for the state. All right, if something was to happen, I run the DMS sites and everything else, so we'll be using them for debris assessments along with DEMA. Traffic mitigation, obviously, you put them up, you can see, up and down a corridor, especially in front of a NASCAR or some of the events like that. Or just getting into bridge inspections. Don't know what we're doing yet, kind of like with everybody else. Indiana DOT is doing a pool fund study with Purdue, and we're part of it. I've been out there in January for the kickoff meeting, and we're trying to develop, procedures, what aircraft to use, what the software to use, and everything else. So we'll see how that goes. I got guys out this morning doing some archaeological inspections. We do before, after, or variations during the digs. So. The rest of these are just pictures of different events that we've done. I know I'm way over time, so that's basically going to complete my presentation. Like I said, during lunch, I'm going to go over the exact procedures of how we are able to fly in this area. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have the cameras directly integrated into the TMC's ATMS system or software so that you can kind of live stream it?
Yeah. Yeah, what we've done is we've taken the iPads. On the smaller ones, we've taken the iPads, and the iPads, we've taken out the SIM card, taken that, sent it back to Verizon. They've basically reprogrammed it so it goes onto a private network. And then with private network, that's how we send that, just like we would do any of our fixed cameras or our portable cameras. So. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How are you saving all this data? And this is for MDOT also. You're talking about the FOIA requests and not deleting anything. How are you saving
all this data? Are you downloading it somewhere and saving it, or are you keeping it?
I do it a couple different places. I have a 3 terabyte external, and I put a lot of the things on there. We also put it onto our server, which the IT guys really don't like, but we have a section in there that we put everything on there. And once it's on there, I've never deleted anything off it. But I also don't like to put garbage up on it. So like if we're doing a video or something of that nature, I will go in using Adobe Photoshop 15, and I will sew those videos together and link out the garbage. For those of you that were, if you remember me saying when I did the webinar, you know, you're flying, you're thinking you're the greatest pilot in the world, you know, and you got beautiful pictures. And then when you get back into your, you know, put them on your computer, you're like, oh God, they're making me sick because of that jerking motion. You know, you think, oh yeah, look at that shot. And it's that, and so we basically, I cut all that out and sew our stuff together. If it's going to be something to support law enforcement, basically what I'll do is I put them on a thumb drive and I hand carry it over to law enforcement. Any other questions?